People are always arguing about generations. Some say boomers ruined everything. Others claim millennials dismantled it. Then there is Gen Z, supposedly reinventing it. But one generation rarely enters the spotlight. They are not loud, defensive, or chasing trends. They simply exist in the background. Generation X, born roughly from the mid-1960s to the early 1980s. They are the steady co-workers who don't make noise and the parents who don't over-explain. They helped shape the modern world without documenting every moment online. Yet psychologically, they may be one of the most misunderstood groups alive. Gen X was the first generation to experience widespread independence at a young age, not by choice, but by circumstance. Picture an 8-year-old walking home alone, unlocking the front door to an empty house, and knowing no one would check in for hours. There were no smartphones, no security apps, and no "text me when you are home." They handled it themselves, made a snack, finished homework, and waited. Growing up like that built competence, but it also instilled a lasting belief: you can't always count on someone to show up. That understanding doesn't fade easily. Those empty afternoons did more than foster independence, they shaped how Gen X thinks about consequences. When parents returned home, expectations were clear. If you crossed a boundary, you felt it immediately. There were no drawn-out debates or emotional debriefs. Psychologists would describe this as a high-consequence environment, where actions quickly lead to outcomes. That's one reason Gen X often seems to think ahead. Early on, they learned that decisions carry weight. At the same time, they watched adults promise stability and fail to keep the promise. They saw divorces become common. They witnessed layoffs strike competent employees. Institutions preached security and then changed the rules. They were told that hard work and rule-following guaranteed success, until the guarantees disappeared. Instead of turning into wide-eyed idealists, Gen X became pragmatic planners. Not bitter, prepared. They learned to anticipate disruption and brace themselves emotionally. This mentality also explains something many people understood as detachment. Gen X is not antisocial, they are private. They grew up in a time when mistakes faded with time instead of living forever online. Embarrassment didn't go viral. Personal moments remained personal. So sharing everything publicly doesn't feel thrilling, it feels dangerous. To them, privacy equals protection. Their humor reflects that mindset. Sarcasm, irony, and self-deprecation aren't signs of indifference, they're defense mechanisms. They came of age amid a steady hum of anxiety, Cold War fears, nuclear drills, and whispered adult conversations about catastrophe. When instability surrounds you but no one addresses it openly, you learn to keep some emotional distance. Despite that backdrop, Gen X developed a quiet, reliable work ethic. They don't advertise it or package it as hustle culture. They just show up and get things done. Many started working young, delivering newspapers at dawn, handling cash registers without digital help, and taking on responsibility before they were officially adults. These jobs weren't about passion, they were about preparation. They built competence first, confidence later. They also saw firsthand how fragile loyalty could be. Companies let go of workers who had given decades of service. So Gen X shifted their mindset. They don't rely on institutions, they rely on their abilities. They don't assume a job will protect them, they believe adaptability will. That's why many quietly juggle multiple income streams, not to impress anyone, but to stay secure. At the heart of Gen X's mindset is a contradiction: they are fiercely self-sufficient yet reliably present for others. They rarely ask for assistance because they have been solving their own problems since they were young. But when someone else is in need, they step in quietly, without drawing attention or seeking praise, because that is how loyalty and friendship were built when supervision was minimal and independence was expected. Their view of authority mirrors this independence. Titles don't impress them, ability does. If a leader proves capable, Gen X is steadfast. If not, they detach quickly. That attitude was shaped by witnessing institutions and leaders fall short again and again, across politics, the economy, and society. They learned early that holding power doesn't guarantee good judgment. Financially, many from this generation faced repeated instability. Some graduated into recessions, others were advancing in their careers when economic downturns erased progress. Instead of relying on blind hope, they adapted by preparing for setbacks. If nothing is permanent, you build backup plans. But that deep self-reliance carries a psychological burden. Gen X handles crises with calm efficiency yet often struggles to ask for help. It's not a lack of connection, it's that needing support can feel like surrendering control. They were conditioned to cope quietly and independently. They were also shaped by a slower, more effortful way of learning. Before instant access to information, answers required patience and persistence. You searched, waited, and wrestled with ideas. That process made lessons last. When something broke, you fixed it instead of replacing it. This hands-on problem-solving fostered a lasting belief: with enough patience, most challenges can be resolved. Now, many are parenting in a world that feels unfamiliar, where children are constantly monitored, visible, and documented. They have given their kids something they often lacked: consistent attention. Yet they sometimes wonder about the trade-offs, because in their youth, staying unnoticed often meant staying safe. Generation X is not superior or inferior, just distinct. They came of age in a transitional period, after one era unraveled and before another fully formed. They serve as a bridge between worlds. And like most bridges, they rarely receive recognition, they simply carry the weight quietly, without asking to be seen.